This is why you should never spend the night on Niku Island. In 1937, while on her flight around the world, Amelia Earhart mysteriously vanished over Howland Island in the Pacific Ocean. Despite an enormous search, she was never found. 3 years after her disappearance, a scientist discovered an incomplete skeleton on this tiny, uninhabited island called Niku Island that wasn't too far from Howland Island. It looked like whoever's bones these were, they had been ripped limb from limb. But when the bones were examined, they determined they were not Amelia Earhart's. But in 2017, a forensic anthropologist re-examined the bones and determined they were almost definitely Amelia's. So scientists went to Niku Island and they found freckle cream, something Amelia was famous for using. So the working theory is she crash-landed on Niku Island and she fell asleep somewhere on the beach. Then, after smelling her blood, hundreds of 3-foot-wide coconut crabs came out of their burrows, swarmed her, and ate her.
On the morning of January 14th, 1989, something very unusual happened on a Chicago news station. WMAQ, which is an NBC affiliate, interrupted all of their morning programming and ran this photo. A missing woman named Joanna Lopez. But viewers noticed something very off about this photo. It's completely unrecognizable. It wouldn't make sense to run this to identify anybody. That's also not typically how missing person broadcasts are shown. There's usually descriptors like height or weight, not just a phone number. Home videos caught that this was actually broadcast again in 1991 for 10 seconds before it cut away to color bars. But what's really strange is that a probe into the public records of Chicago showed that there was no woman who was missing by this name. She exists in none of the archives of missing people in 1989 for Chicago, and there is no news record of her with NBC. So who was this missing woman, and why was WMAQ showing her on their broadcast? 3 of the most disturbing mugshots on the internet. Number 1. In 2011, Jared Loughner arrived at a Safeway where he was targeting U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords. Jared was a misogynist and did not believe women should hold positions of power, so he opens fire. She ended up surviving the attack, but there were 6 people killed in the process, and when he was finally apprehended, he showed no remorse as seen in this photo. Number 2. This is the booking photo of one of the scariest active gang members in California, Dion Milam. He was charged with murder but remained completely emotionless through the entirety of his trial, making this mugshot even more chilling. Number 3. There was virtually no public information I could find related to this photo, which most likely means that it was maybe substance-related or a non-violent offense. But the sort of vacant and unsettling nature of the photo leaves it haunting enough that I would consider this to be one of the more disturbing mugshots I have ever seen. On February 19th of 1994, 31-year-old Gloria Ramirez was rushed to a California emergency room. She was reportedly severely confused and experiencing heart palpitations, but the medical staff noticed something was wrong here. Her skin had a sheen to it like it was slicked with oil, and her mouth had an odor of fruit and garlic. They also noticed that when they drew her blood, it reeked of ammonia and had crystal-like particles in it. But then the unusual happened. One by one, the medical staff began to pass out around her. In total, there were 23 people who fell ill, so the ER was completely evacuated as it was believed, for an unknown reason, her body was toxic. Following her death shortly after, examiners autopsied her in hazmat suits, but were perplexed to find virtually nothing unusual in her system. There were unusually high levels of dimethylsulfone, but it's unclear what that may have contributed here. Although mostly attributed to mass hysteria, many believe there was something with her body that caused this. Here are 3 of the most disturbing mugshots on the internet. Also, if you want more creep content, make sure that you follow and you can subscribe to my YouTube with the link in the bio. Number 1. On the evening of 1990, a woman named Marlene Warren opened her front door to find another woman standing there dressed head to toe as a clown. She was holding balloons and roses, so when Marlene went to reach for some, the woman pulled out a weapon, shot, and killed her. This was a cold case for like 27 years until finally being connected to a woman named Sheila, who was the husband's mistress through the late 80s. Clearly, she does not feel bad. Number 2. Provided from a Florida correctional facility, the nature of this woman's crimes were unclear, but her photo made an impact. Distressed hair with these wild eyes, it's very unsettling to stare at this shot for even more than a few seconds. Number 3. Coming in from Lakeport, Texas, this was a suspect who was apprehended following a break-in. When taken into custody, the station was kind of shocked as there's something very off about his features. Something unexplainable. Welcome to Creep Time with Silas Dean. I want to hear your thoughts and your comments about the picture that you're about to see. Also, if you're loving Creep Time, make sure that you follow above, and if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can use the link in the bio. What you're looking at is one of the rarest cases of craniopagus parasitic parasiticus. This is where the skull of two bodies is fused at birth, and in this case, two separate brains but shared blood vessels. The full-bodied twin was named Manar, and what was considered the parasitic twin was named Islam. The attached head had virtually no body and no organs, and could not survive without Manar's body, but was a separate and functional brain. When Manar would cry, Islam could be laughing, and vice versa. There were two separate thoughts going on here. The medical world had never encountered something like this, but because the attached twin was draining resources from Manar's body and they could not survive together, a risky and controversial operation took place, which did successfully remove Manar from the parasitic twin, leaving Manar as the only surviving twin. But this is a gray area here in terms of ethics. Although Islam had no functional organs and could not survive on their own, does a functional brain constitute a person? Or was this simply a parasitic twin that, if not removed, would kill the healthier twin? The question of moral concern with this case was one that the medical world just simply wasn't prepared to answer. It was a circumstance so rare that we had never even pondered the question. Could a mind that's just a mind with no body be considered a person? Here are 3 pictures with something dark lurking in the background. And if you're loving Creep Time and you want longer content, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel with the link in the bio. Number 1. With what kinda just looks like an overpacked truck at first, if you look a little bit closer, you might be horrified to find a small child in the back. Caught by a passing driver, all that can be seen is the head of a small boy crammed beneath the dresser. Number 2. When a wife had her camera roll developed, she thought she'd see pictures of her husband and her cat on the couch, but what she caught was horrifying. A smiling head beneath the end table. She confirmed in horror there was nothing she saw in that room after taking these pictures, leaving the face scene completely unexplainable. Number 3. During the attacks of 9/11, a picture was captured of what appears to be a woman standing at the impact zone. It's unknown how she could have survived the impact, or what appears to be her leaning up against scorching steel, making her final photo a mystery.
Do you notice something kind of off about this mannequin? For anyone who's familiar with the legend, she is known as La Pascualita. The mannequin has stood in the window of a Mexican bridal shop for more than 90 years, but when she was first placed there, patrons noticed something kind of strange. The detail work on this mannequin was unusual. She was noted with eyebrow hair, veins, and even discoloration around her mouth and ears. But that suspicion soon grew to horror as patrons started to notice that she bore a striking resemblance to the owner's deceased daughter, Pascuala. Pascuala was actually said to be married herself, but ended up dying in a tragedy before her wedding day. Shortly after her death, the mannequin appeared in the window and the legend was born that these were the preserved remains of the owner's daughter. But the most compelling evidence has always been the hands. The hands are shown with wrinkles, they have veins, they even have lifelike fingernails, which is unlike any mannequin I have ever seen. The question remains to this day, could this really be the shop owner's daughter?